The mere consciousness of an engagement will sometimes worry a whole day. That's the quote that Paul Graham used to open one of his most popular essays to date, Maker's Schedule, Manager's Schedule. When I first read this essay, I felt myself internally screaming and cheering. Yes! Finally, someone gets it! In this essay, Paul details the two types of schedules that people subconsciously use in their day-to-day lives. The manager's schedule or the maker's schedule. The manager's schedule, as you might have been able to tell from the name, is often used by people in power and sitting in high-up positions in organizations. The manager's schedule operates on an hourly or even half-hourly basis, and the people who thrive using this schedule are the ones who can seamlessly jump from meeting to meeting to meeting without skipping a beat. They're just as productive in every single meeting. Their performance really doesn't waver. And because most managers and people in power at organizations operate really well on the manager's schedule, they use that influence and sway the entire organization to operate on that schedule as well, when in reality, a lot of people within the organization would actually be much more productive on the maker's schedule. The maker schedule is run on day or half-day time blocks, and it's called the maker's schedule because the characters that tend to naturally gravitate towards this way of working are more often than not making something and active makers themselves, whether they be writers or programmers or artists or editors. They're makers. But because they may not have the power or the authority within an organization to maintain and set boundaries around their ideal schedule, oftentimes their work gets interrupted and their productivity gets totally thrown off because managers are throwing meetings on their calendars. So which one of these schedules do you work best in? The manager's schedule or the maker's schedule? I know that for me personally, if I'm expected to be even somewhat productive, I have to operate on a maker's schedule. The quote at the top of this video, the one by Charles Dickens, "The mere consciousness of an engagement can sometimes worry a whole day," is 100% true. That cut me to my core when I first read it, because I'm the type of person that if I have something on my calendar in the afternoon, I really can't get into anything of substance in the morning. If I have a video to edit or a project to ship that I know requires 4 to 5 hours of deep, focused work, I'm probably not even going to open that project on a day where I have something else on my calendar. Even if I have a big chunk of time in the morning, the presence of a meeting throws off my entire day. It sounds ridiculous, it sounds so sensitive, but I've always been like that. I remember when I first started dating, like years ago, if I had a date scheduled in the evening, all I could think about was that date. It wasn't because I was nervous about it. It had nothing to do with my feelings. The date just was lingering in the back of my mind constantly because it was an obligation. The other aspect of the maker and manager schedules that's really, really interesting to me, and I'm not saying this is an exact science or anything, but I think that the people who tend to work best on the maker schedule are probably more introverted than the ones who tend to work best on the manager schedule. Here's why. Say what you will about personality tests. I know people have all sorts of opinions on them and how they might be bull, but the one trait that is most scientifically backed that touches a lot of those different personality tests is the introversion and extroversion spectrum. So if you're introverted, it doesn't mean that you're shy or antisocial or any of that. You can have a circle of friends that you adore and you could really enjoy spending time with people that you love. But if you are introverted, all that means is that you gain your energy by spending time alone. You need to recharge after a social engagement. And if you're extroverted, you gain energy by being around people and you're stimulated by that. Emphasis on stimulated. The main difference between introverts and extroverts is their sensitivities to dopamine. There have been studies done where people self-identify as either introverted or extroverted, and their brains are scanned. And what was found was that introverted people are much more sensitive to dopamine. It doesn't take much stimulation for their brains to be engaged and firing on all cylinders. Meanwhile, extroverts are much less sensitive to dopamine, so it takes a lot more activity to get them excited and engaged in something. It just makes a lot of sense to me why managers or people who tend to be in leadership roles and operate really well on a manager's schedule, they would also tend to be extroverted. That's not necessarily a blanket statement. I know a lot of leaders are introverts and have to take a lot of meetings because that's sometimes what the job requires. So I'm not saying that like the line is drawn in the sand and that extroverts use the manager schedule and introverts use the maker schedule, but I would not be surprised at all if that's where the divide was. As a highly introverted person myself, I can tell you that one of my favorite sights in the entire world, I mean this from the bottom of my heart, is a blank day on my calendar, a day with nothing on it. That is the most motivating and energizing thing that I could possibly see. Similarly, canceled plans. Don't get me wrong, I have a family that I'm very close with, I have friends that I love and adore spending time with, but I am literally never upset about a canceled plan. It doesn't matter how much I was even looking forward to the thing. If you cancel on me, I will always be grateful. I can't explain it. I don't even have social anxiety, that's the weird thing. I just love an empty schedule. So if you're on the maker schedule, let me know how you have gone about protecting your time. And if you're on the manager schedule and everything that I just said is bonkers bananas to you, I'm sorry, but you likely work with a lot of people like me. If you want to learn more about the creative process from other business professionals, we have a private video marketing coaching group that is without a doubt my favorite call of the week. It is a stellar group of people and we'd be happy to have you, so I'm going to leave that link in the description below. But until next time, go make some cool shit.